Kia ora tātou. Ahoe no, tui ei runga, tui ei raro, tui ei roto, tui ei waho. Tui ei te herenga, tāngata ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao. I te pūkenga, i te wānanga, i te taura, i te tauira. Ia tātou e pai nei roto i tā tātou whare. Whitiki kia ora, whitiki kia pai, tihei mauri ora. Ahoe no, tēnei ka mihi kia tātou, i roto i tā tātou noho tahi i tēnei pō. Kia hatia. Kai hei ko mai, kai hei ko atu, te wāhi ki o tātou mate tā rūrūnui. Hinga mai nei, hinga atu nai o tātou marae kāina huri noa. Ka mihia, ka tangihia, ka poroporo aki tia e rātou. Ao te pō te ao i nā wā katoa. Ke ai te kōrero, he puke nā wai ka putu he rākau. Puke ngā tāngata, kua putu he kōrero. Nei tātou, te puke ngā tāngata e whakaputu kōrero ni. I tēnei kaupapa, e kia nei ko kupu. Me te whakaaro aki, ko nā kōrero katoa te ao Māori, he mea kauhau, he mea taki, he mea whakapuaki, he mea wānanga, ki roto i wēnei o tātou whare, i whakaeria rāwe rā kōrero, ki nā pātū o tēnei whare, hei aha, hei tikina ke, hei nanaotanga mā tātou, kia whakatipu ake, kia whakapuaki, ki o tātou nā wā. No reira, koe nei ka mihi ake ki tēnei kaupapa, e whakakotahi nei a tātou nei te whakaaro Māori. Me te aha, ko te huringa o te ao tēnei, ko nā whakamānawatanga nui tēnei, o te ao nui, o te ao huri nei, ko tātou e whakamānawa ake nei. I wēnei tokorua, kua roa rāua e pīkau ana, i wā rāua nā mahi, i nā mahi nui, e ke ai, te kōrero, ko te rangatiratanga o te Kapa Haka. Ka mihi, he maringa nui tēnei, kua tae mai kōrua ki tēnei o tāua nā papakāinga, o tāua nā whare, ko nā hono ngā whakapapa wēnā, i titia rā ki roto ki nā kōrero, i tutu ai tēnei whare, ngā mahi pākihi katoa o tēnei whenua, rā ia, ko ngā hono ngā whakapapa, te taha ki a papa wharanui, ka mutu, ko te hononga, i tuhia mai rā te reta, ki a te iwi mōrehu, nā te kania takirau tēnā reta, hei nōhanga ki ngā whenua, hei nōhia rā, ngā mātue nā tupuna o ngā tiparau, ko hikurangi maunga tonu tērā. No reira, e kore, e tika, te wāhi ki te tū ki te mihi ki te kore whakapua ki we nā kōrero, hei taunaki i te rena tanga o tēnei noho. Me te aha, i tīmata rā tēnei mahi, te mahi tāpui, i oroko hanga i ngā kuia, i ngā koroua, o wēnei takiwa, o tūhaurangi o Ngāti Wāhiao, ka tika hoki, tēnei wāhi hei wānangatanga mā tātou kaihia, te whakamua, te apōpō o ngā mahi ārehia, ngā mahi Kapa Haka. Ko te arawa hoki, tētahi waka, e ngana e mōheo anau, he pērā hoki tōna haere, kāre aha, ngā iwi o te motu, ka mahi ona mahi, e Māori ai te āhua o te arawa. No reira i runga i wēnā mihi, i runga i wēnā pahupahu tēnā koutou, ka karanga ki nā maramara o tūhaurangi, kia waiata rai tā tātou waiata. Me ti matai ana toro e rangi piki ti ake rā i te tihi o Tongariro. Ngi atana kiri e te mata o ka au e atura ki o na tua hine ki a hari a mai te ahi te waka. Ki ana tara te hia ka hauru mai te whenua po. Ata tū mai ki tāna taha mahu e atu i a rau a te wera me te ahi te taha. Ka mato toru ka marara. Noho i horo te mamaua ki te whakarawarawa te tūna te ope taua. Hawaii awe! Ko nā pari mamaua e mihi kau atu ana ki tā tātou kaupapa ki a koutou katoa. Ka huri ki a koe whaia ki te wāhi ake i tā wā tātou kōrero. I think that's us.
Tama te kapua, kaumata momoe, tawake mai, tanga. Uenuku mai rarotonga, rangitihi, ka moe, apapa wharanui. Tuhau rangi, manuhangaroa, puhi awe awa kawa. Ahu kawa, tamatai punoa, mahaki e. He honore, he korori ki te atua. He maunga rongo ki te whenua. He whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Amine. Te tōku maunga ko Aititi. E rere ana tauawa ko wei hirere. Ko pārihi mānihi tōku marae ātea. Ko Ngāti Wāhia me Ngāti Kōhuru ōku hapu. Ko te aitanga māhaki tōku iwi. Ko te tai rāwhiti ahau. Te taha o tōku pāpā. Ko Ngāti Porou, ko Apanui. Ko te aitanga māhaki. Te taha o tōku māma, ko te whakatōhia, ko te whānau apanui, ko tūhoi. Tēnei ahau, e tū atu nei e. Ko wei ahau, ko wei ahau, ko te wei hirere. He hapu e, humari e, haka i tino ara. Nā te katoa, ngā hau e whā, he rau toha noa. I tupu i pakekei, roto i te aroha. Whiri kia kotahi ki te atua. Aue ahakoa, he kore noa, toro atu aku ringa. Kia koe, ko te wei hirere. Tēnā tātou. I'm really humbled to share a space among the lions and lionesses of our beautiful tikanga, kawa, te reo e mātauranga. Tēnā koe e te whanaunga turehira. Tā Timoti rawa ko tā pau, ara ko koe Monty tai atu ki ngā tohunga katoa. Tēnā rawa atu tātou ngā rangatira. Thank you for the invite to present here, Kupu. I love all that you represent. To be honest, I was stumped with the kaupapa you gave me. However, as a two-bit writer myself, I've composed and written many of the compositions where he has presented over the many years. So I asked myself, why would esteemed Māori writers want to know about Waiata Aringa? That was my kaupapa until I saw Mako, his new program. Anyway, I stuck to it. And when I thought about it, I thought, well, our common denominator has got to be story. Can I say, though, and all of you here you'd know this, all genre of haka carry story. From my mentors, I learned that Waiata Aringa allowed the creator the opportunity to enter the contemporary space. I didn't want to come here and tell us all to suck eggs, so I had to get clever. And from the very beginning of our creation, Waihiri went there. At times, it often tipped across the line, you know. He piko o te mahuri, te ra te tipu o te kau, whangaia e te horoha kia te pu ke tuha. Thank you. Tā pera rangata. Tūni ngāwai, Auntie Ngoi, pewhairangi. My Uncle Kani, excuse my voice please people, my Uncle Kani Tiwa and his right hand lady, Nani Ani Taihuka, thank you. With Uncle Bill, kere kere, then on to Ngāpō and Pemia. They had no problem going right into that amazing contemporary space. It challenged the norm and it gave opportunity to create new spaces, to be mischief, to be daring. Dear, when you smiled at me, I heard a melody. It haunted me from the start. Something inside of me started a symphony. Zing with the strings of my heart. 'Twas like a breath of spring. I heard a robin sing about a nest set apart. All nature seemed to be in perfect harmony. Sing with the strings of my heart. Tai atu rā kinga e hine tamama. Tai tamariki ma. Tēnei te ki ane ro te whakahau. A tātou waiata, ngā paki waitara, he mahi whakangahau. What's that you say? And we're just like a breath of spring. I heard it. And so, you know, it went on. From way back, Te Rāwhiti used Pākehā tunes as a vehicle to tell our story. We were fantastic at that. The music, the beat, the sounds, they enhanced the story. And it was really important that that married our Trev. You did it too. and so it caught the imagination, taking the listener to places that warmed the heart, that rocked their boat, and that set their feet tapping. The colour of story had begun. Variation of sound, you know, beautiful Maori harmonies. How many times have I had parties across the little river there? And the talent didn't include the Howard Morrisons and all the other people that got onto TV, but oh my God, it was fantastic here. the music and the harmonies of those days, we're losing it a bit. We're starting to scream. So the colour of story had begun, and variation of sound gave capability to performers to connect, to deepen story, getting into the spirit of the people that they were talking to, singing to, just like your storybooks, you know. Otiuhi Maira taking us down those spooky spaces that his family went to. But he pulled us along. And so in Haka we had to do that. Old people were so fantastic at doing it. I don't know what's happened to us today, people. Not a hell of a lot, I think. We're getting too PC about things. So when you married all of those parts together, the audience is entranced and the job is done. You hooked them. So the entrance is a good time to do Don? And we did it all. You know, what's that thing? You know, your brother jumped up and on. You know, our uniqueness as Māori is our ability to connect, to touch, to move with heart. Tuini and Ngoi and their magical hokowhituatu performers, especially the big ladies like me, smiled, and the audience felt it. As the ladies moved their bodies, that magic communicated ease. It invited people up onto the stage. It invited touch, it invited feel, it invited joy. That's what Haka was about. Hey, connection. We have to get back there. And then there was Ānuru Takarua. Probably a lot of you guys in this room won't even know Ānuru Takarua. Well, you missed something great. And Raumoko. The best orgasm we all know about. Nothing can tell the story as clear, any clearer than when his tongue poked out and his eyes rolled back and his body movement from his eyes to the tips of his toes told the total story. Wow! Ladies couldn't sit still on their seats. And when Pēmea commanded the group with Haka Wahine, it was all on. Aue porou koa! Aue kahamok wahine ko! Aue kotahu koa! Aue kahamok wahine ko! Aue nane tō hato hakinyu tēra ni ka hipoki! Haere mai! Aue! Haere mai! Aue! Taku hui! Hey. We moved with power, feeling, holding nothing back. There was us people back in the day. There's a lot of noise these days. There's not a hell of a lot of connection going on. You know, we have to get that back. We have to get that back. Otherwise, what's the point of us being? It's what makes us unique. We were masters at connection. We told stories like no other people on earth did. Can you believe it? I do. You know, I remember being, way back in the day, my kids were still babies, and I went with a crowd of probably 100, they were people from here. Ngāpi Waka took all the ladies to Canada, to the first Whipsy conference. And I had done a bit of travelling, and I was a bit not a bit, I was super whakahihi. And he made us dress in black, and I rolled out in my orange dress. And we got to the university in Vancouver. Beautiful. You know, the Antrim was there, and all the lawns were, they were beautifully presented and everything. And without flicking your ass, there's all these Maoris lying all over this lawn, smoking and eating fish and chips, and I went, woo. So, I stood over there. And then we were culled out to go to the different lectures. And I went to one, and the one I went to really woke me up. And he was a Sioux Indian, Red Indian, and he was the conductor of the New York Symphony Orchestra. And he was talking about how he was going back to university, doing a PhD, to relearn how to smile. And I thought, wow, it's good to be Māori, you know. I was back on that lawn like a flash. I was sitting there smoking and eating fish and chips with them all. If I brought anything home, that's what I brought home. Is that we owe it to ourselves to keep our uniqueness. But how the hell can we keep it if we don't know it? So, you know, my generation's got to stick around a bit more. And and the stuff we transfer, it's got to be kosher. What do I mean by kosher? So mine is kosher because I grew up at the heels like a lot of people who are my age sitting in here. You grew up at Guide Kitty's heels like I did. I spent a lot of days up in that house up that hill with Dal and her nannies and going through this little village. And it's that information that we've got to bring forward to today. All the stuff that we're learning in the cities is not good enough, people. You know, if you're building, you know, your little empire in the city, you got to go home to the north again, and you got to put your broken foot into the earth, and learn about the tangas, manaakitanga, in a real way. Otherwise, we are going to lose it. Look, can I tell you that? You know, even though I live in the country, I work hard to make those connections, to transfer that information. Why do you think I'm here today? And where's my kids? One's down the road a bit with his school, and the other one's at home doing te reo classes. So they're all busy doing what I'm glad they're doing what they do. You know, I can still drive the car, I can still get myself here to do what I've got to do. I took it really serious when I got the letter and the invitation from Mark Koha, because I needed to come here and say this. And I'm pleased to see, and I hope there's some on that box who are listening. You know, you might have a marae in the city, but you also need to go home to the place that you could get your feet into the whenua. Different here. This was the whenua, wasn't it? But there are some places where too many of our kids grow up and they don't have what you guys have got here. But I'm just about finished. But I'm going to take some questions. So that old brigade, they were my masters. They were true storytellers. Me and mine have many reasons to be grateful to our tipuna, and we are. They insisted that when involved in haka, our hearts are open and we are all inclusive. That we tell our stories their way, and we do that as best we can. So, to all that brigade who have gone on, we thank them in the most humble way we know how. E ngā tini mate, kei wainga nui a tātou. Haere rā, hoki atu, rā ki Hawaii ki. Te kai ngā tuturu, Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pāmama, haere koutou. Hoki wairua, mai rā koutou, ho mai te wai, ora kia hau, wai hoke ki muri nei, ngā tikanga, hei tauira, hei o haki, ki te iwi, mō ke tonu. Tēnā tātou.
We've had many a conversation about succession, and if you don't mind sharing, I'd love for everyone to hear how you have managed succession for Waihirere.
Thank you, Donna. Hope Rob's listening. So what have Waihirere going forward? It gives me a warm balloon-like feeling to share with you all that I'm retired from this space, which I've carried for almost 50 years. He pakeke ahau I nai nei. The biggest and brightest honest question I needed to ask myself was about succession. And in keeping with everything I hold dear, I looked around and I thought, they spent a lot of time, the old people, your old people, my old people, teaching us everything we've done. And so it was important for me to really give this a lot of deep thinking. Did I just want to walk out? Did I want to be chucked out? You know, all I hear of is around the country is people getting chucked out of a situation. And so it wasn't about that for me, even though that's not what I wanted to happen. What I wanted to do was for the whole process to continue to go forward. And to not only go forward, but to build. And to continue be learning about stuff already gone by and the stuff yet to come. And so how do you do that? We came here, Watu, you were here, I saw you coming, eh? Yeah. Watu invited us here a couple of years back. And at that weekend that we came here, we spent all afternoon in my friend Kirsten's boardroom. And what we did was we sat there and we plotted and we strategized. And thank goodness for that. Because I can tell you that we implemented a lot of that stuff. It's not an easy thing to do. I can tell you how we did it, but the point is that you've got to do it your own way. You've got to have a plan. Well, first off, you've got to have somebody who wants to step out of the chief space. A lot of us don't. And so horrible things happen. And so, well, I wanted to always, be nosing and be involved, when I'm 80 and 84. And so it was important that we give it some deep thought. So when we came here to Watu's weekend, we sorted a group of 20. And in that group of 20 was musos, writers, choreographers. Oh, I have to have a look at my notes. I did make some notes because I thought I might get asked. So the context of song, it's all the writing stuff, comes back to, the people who carry that information. You know who you are. And so you have those people, and in Waihire's case it's been me and whoever wants to join me. And George was awesome when he was there. And and I pay absolute homage to George for the years that he worked alongside us. and gave his knowledge. It certainly was what I needed. And so him and I usually did the context. And once we got it sorted, we would sit down with the writers, and sitting on the edge of that group were the musos. And so there's got to be, hey, you've got to share information. And and then once the writers have got it, they go off and they do what they do, and things are time framed. And then we'll come back in and do a check, and I'll go, well, no, it's a whole different context. You need to stay in context, but you can, this is how we wanted things done. So you've got to do how you want to do things. So we would pull the context, and the writers would come in, and that's all the guide was, the context. But they could put it down however which way they wanted to put it down. And we've trialled a few of those compositions, and they've been successful. And then the whole process goes like that. Kapa? So the system is not as straightforward as you might be, and I'm sure you who have been in these positions would understand that. And so there's all this moving and shaking and people not available, and so although we have a group of 20, the real work group is like 7. And it's those people who, when they're called, they are there. Hey, darling. Yeah. I went to get petrol the other day, and there they were coming to have their meeting over here. And so there's a whole lot of coming to terms with each other. You've got to really have fantastic relationships in the group, or have the capability to manage people. Hey. And so from that point, both George and I have had, in another lifetime, we're both managers in park house government situations. And so the HR, the human resource, you understand how people tick. That's critical. Otherwise we get into wars with each other. So that's part of it. And then right back here sits, so who's going to be the next leader? And that's something you've got to think about. Think about very widely, carefully. And the last person you need to be thinking about is yourself, is myself. And because I wanted this to happen, I was able to move. And so it was very clear who I thought were going to be these people, and it's a partnership. And so in there you've got to do things like this, Donna. You've got to know your environment. I'm not current in the haka scene. What does that mean? I think some of those judges are a whole lot of rubbish. And I stand by what I say, because a lot of them haven't even won one festival or been in that space, and they say do. And so hence the reason I'm not current. And my kids, my two boys, they move and think, you're sort of like me, but mostly not. And that's okay, I've just got to catch them up. I'm not going to ever do that. But at least the idea is there, and they're allowed to grow. They're allowed to keep going, and they're always checking. So, Mum, did I say, Mum? What do you think? Yeah, no, sweet as. Keep going. Fantastic. Is she for real? So there's all of that that happens in the relationship and in the process. And so you've got to know that environment. You've got to know that what the judging's about, who they are, and I watched some of the the best ones in the world. And that was Bub and Ann. They were fantastic at determining how and what and why. And so, and then, what are the parameters? It's really deep, eh? You've got to sit down basically, and you've got to determine how do I want to go forward, and what are the things, and you just build a framework and you get going. And as wide as it might look, as long as you've got those tangas going along with you, those values going along with you, you're okay. Hey. So for me, I had to look at the haka environment, local, tribal, across borders, because my tipuna, they opened our doors back in the 60s and 70s. And so we've always had people from other tribes. And so how do you work that? Yeah, well, it's become quite easy and lovely. Just gives you a whole bigger space to work through. And, so I think you've got to know the environment, both your own environment, your group, your hapu, your iwi, and then tamararo. So what's it here? Te Arawa Trust? Yeah, regional trust. You've got to know who they are. You've got to be friends with them. You and I know, is that the most backward thing is anything to do with haka administration, unless you're doing it yourself. And are there any legacies in there, and what are they, and why are they? And so what, why, parameters, who, and then you've got to look at yourself. Are you for real? Do you really want to step off your crown, your king seat? And that's a real question. And if you don't answer it properly, you're going to get into shit. So answer it. More of this needs to happen in our groups. And then we'll get more consistency going forward. But leadership is the key. If you're like me and you're on the Marae committee and the bloody trustees and the you know who the leaders are. They're the people that work the kitchen and go out on the pai, and they're there every time that bell rings. Eh? And so if you're still in that context, you're lucky. Eh? But if you're not, well, it's a bit more cosmopolitan. I can't tell you that. So really, that's it, really. And you build it as you go. Got anything else? The structure that you set into place, like when we were at Kirsten's office, we set into place a structure to live by, that we could all live by. And so the 20 of you stand there for everybody, as opposed to when it used to just be George or me. That used to be hard. And so, yeah. Is that it? Okay. Any more questions?
Tēnā koe Tangiwai. Anei, kei konei te mic. I have a couple of questions, but I see that I have to put them aside because there are some on screen. So if you will just indulge us for a little bit longer. This is from Potaua, Biasini Tule. You have influenced Kapa Haka. Today, who influences you?
My life. My capability to be a kaumātua, a kuia. And I find that a real challenge to do, So I just spent 2 fabulous days at Hamirana, and what did I do? I've just I've just joined my nephew Johnny Moitera's toy class, and I'm learning about all of these symbols in this whare. And so I spent the last 2 days, I'm way behind in my work, and I spent the last 2 days catching up. I have to do, a board of my whakapapa with all of these symbols. And so when I can, it's saying, somebody said it, where are you, Messia? Stop saying yes. Hey. And say no and look after you. Too many of us women do what I did. And so when I was 70, I retired. I stopped work. And then I sat there and I thought, now what? And I tell you, I've never enjoyed life so much. I love it. You know, I garden, and I do say no. But I have some priorities in there that I don't say no to. And one is to my hapu. And when the kids need me with the hakas, that's about it. Otherwise, it's all about me.
Excellent. That's
all
excellent.
about me.
Excellent to hear that. Now, we also have a question from Renata Nepe. You know, we've been hanging out, just before I put the question, we've been hanging out for you to give us some names. You've been tantalising little bits and pieces in front of us. So, on the spot now, other than Waihirere, ko Waito Tino Kapa Haka, who is your top Kapa Haka, other than Waihirere?
Gosh. You know, when
Careful
I was
now.
when I was there, so when we were top of the game, you know, it was easy to say who, but you know, the skills in every group, it's changed, and I mean, you can be at the top today and right at the bottom the next day, the next year. And so what does that say? Is that there's not a hell of a lot of difference between groups today. And so I love to harangi at the festival. I loved, you know, I was sorry my nieces and nephews didn't get in because I loved a lot of what they did. Wakahuia. Well, I was shocked in a fantastic way with Ngāti Whakaui. You know, that was amazing. Yeah, it was fantastic to see. And a few of the new teams there. Is that it?
That was a very tactful answer.
Of course, I love Whanrapanui, Whangarā. I hope you're listening, Derek. Yeah, I think so. I think that's about it.
Tēnā koe te mare kura. If there are any other questions, this is your opportunity. Otherwise, we will march on.
Marching.
And release you with our most grateful thanks, Tangiwai.
I'm going to take this water.
Homai anō te paki. Yeah, nā kupu rangatira. Before I introduce our next kai kōrero, just a few shout-outs. First of all, do the survey. There's a kupu survey. So do the survey. You'll say it's important, help us to build kupu. Koe te kupu. Toa kupu, support the festival. We're all about manakitanga aroha, so aroha, the merchandise, and the manaki, the merchandise. Christmas is coming soon. Maybe, I don't know. And the gala dinner, tickets are still available on Saturday. Yeah. Hoi anō, just to introduce, not that this man needs an introduction. You might have seen them with their campaign, One More. It's still got it, eh, ongo? Yeah, rangatira in his own right. Yeah, no need for kupu. We all know the no, Uncle Trev, everybody who might te paki paki.
Kia ora koutou katoa. How do you follow that beautiful presentation from Tangiwai, a personal friend? Let's give her another hug. And in the beginning of my journey with Kapa Haka, it started there. Peke Hoa, Te Mimi o Peke Hoa, our river. The Oahu River, that was our drinking water, playground, everything. And our home was right beside the marae there. And that began for 9 of us. 9 tamariki. Our parents raised us the best they could. We were gifted a home by the marae to live in till our Maori Affairs home was built years later. And no electricity, no running water. That was our drinking water. But we, the 9 in the family, our entertainment was singing with each other at home. Just to give you a bit of an idea, mine is, thanks to Mercia and Donna, they've put together some slides that I've got lots of albums at home and different things. I said, I'd rather speak to something and slides will come up and that'll just plant memories that I have of my journey in Kapa Haka. And I hope I can get 50 years or 60 years back into 40 minutes or so. That's us. And somewhere in there is me. I think I'm a midget. You're not allowed to use that word anymore, but we were the midgets. And right through to our chairman, the Pakira Leonard, and it all began at home there at our marae tarimano. And St. Faith's Youth Club also came into the picture because we had Uncle, the Reverend Manu Bennett, who was coming out home taking Sunday school, and all my cousins at home wondered why I was so good in going to Sunday school every weekend, and because there was a good reason. The bridge had been washed away in a flood, and Manu and his able assistant, who happened to be, her name was Atareta Morrison. And first time I laid eyes on her, I thought, wow. So I used to row on the boat, them both across the church, and I attended Sunday school and learned singing and went to St. Faith's. And at the end of each year, we'd have our annual trip from the mighty Oahu Middle Earth. We would go to St. Faith's Church for the various, what they have at Christmas time and everything. And the first year I was one of the 3 wise men. And Peter James, he was one of the head wise men. And she was to become later my sister-in-law, Linda Morrison was the Virgin Mary, and we after our events in St. Faith's Church would go over to the whanakai and mix and mingle. But it was like coming to the big city for us from Oahu. But that was a big help. Then we started doing some shows. They found these reliable Maori performers from out home, and from whakarewa here, Guide Kiddo gave us our chances, and Auntie Bubbles also had a show also in town. Every Sunday night we used to come in and go to the wall bars or the blue bars, swim, go to Evensong at St. Faith's Church, and then go down to the concert chamber and do the Sunday shows. They went for 2.5 hours, and I can recall we got 10 shillings each and spent 80, most of it in the coffee shop afterwards, drinking Coca-Cola, and taxi home. But it was neat. We learnt a lot from being with Kai Kiddo's rōpū there. Thanks, Merce. Now, the important thing for my journey in Kapa Haka started with hui aranga, kora neihana, and hui tōpū. These were in our Ngāti Rangi where we were into the juniors then, and we would perform, look forward to all these events. We used to pack our bags weeks before when we were going for these trips. They were held in Gisborne, in Hastings, at Ngārarawāhia, go up there and then watch all the beautiful sports, rugby league, all the kōrero, but that really gave us the strong feelings of being involved in this beautiful art form. And a little quick slide of, I think Kingi Haka was one of them taking choral groups, but we used to go and enjoy it there, staying at, sleeping in halls and sleep in the hay. Man, we never complained. Never complained. It was great fun. Catch the train to, there was the rail car going to Horowaewae, and going up the Mamakus, us tutus from Oahu used to get in the first carriage, hop off it, let the train go back, wave at people, hop on at the end and then do it again later. Boy, you can't do that now, health and safety, that's gone. Thanks, Mirth. And I acknowledge Uncle Reverend Manuhuia Bennett. He married my parents actually in the church over in Te Puke. And he had a big influence on us as young ones, and even years later. And the church there that I touched on earlier, how we used to go across and have Sunday school there, and even Evensong. But now we've got a church on our own marae at the moment. Thank you. This is my rock. And Atereta, I think I was very blessed. I had my MBA, Maori boy from Oahu, but and we'd done so much of it. And throughout the kōrero, you'll hear me talking about it was never just me, it was we and the family and us. But it was tough. Then we used to do our shows in Tamate Kapua. We'll see Linda, Judy, Dixie, Dina, Clear in the front. And then later to become my favourite mother-in-law, Kahu, sitting back in, and Moana, Keriopa. So we used to do our shows at Tama. That increased to about 2 or 3 nights a week. Did fundraising for St. Faith's Church, the sprinkler system. And I graduated from a ukulele to the guitar later on. But those were neat, and they wondered why I was so reliable, so punctual. Well, the mother-in-law found out as because I was looking at her daughter all the time. And then, arohamai is testing. And then later on in time, I'm trying to take a 50, 60-year journey through as quick as I can, whānau. But, and then later on, when Atereta and we got married, we went on our honeymoon in the Bay of Islands. Brilliant. We came back home, and back here there was a knock on the door, and Howard and the late Don Selwyn called in at home and said to it, "Get up, you two, get up to the Waiariki Polytech. There's some rehearsals going on up there for the Theatre Trust, the Maori Theatre Trust group." And I said to Howard, I said, hey, we're still on our honeymoon. He said, "Bugger your honeymoon." He said, "You've got the rest of your lives together." And he was right. So thank you, Miss. And I want to touch on the
George Nane, one of the best performers in the
Maori
country.
Theatre Trust. It's
He's
a
been
bit of
doing
a
it
video
60 years.
going
He had
here.
no idea what anything meant.
2
He's
weeks
having
in
an absolute ball.
Manutuke. Boy, I could jump high then. Thank you. And this way I want to acknowledge, if I can, yeah. And I want to acknowledge Tangiwai, because they auditioned all over New Zealand, and then they invited 75 people down to Manutuke, and they were going to choose a group, 35 people, to go on a 3.5-month tour throughout the world. And Tangiwai was, I think you were the youngest too, the Tangiwai on the Rōpu, the group that travelled away. So 2 weeks there, we had, that's where we were. We had Dickie Johnson, who is a producer, director, one of the best in New Zealand, a musical director, came across from Australia, choreography. At first we weren't warm to it. We thought, who are these people teaching us how to do all kinds of things? But did we learn a lot, and did we work hard? Because if you want to get into the team, that's what you did. And in my case, I thought, well, I got a bit of a chance, because I thought, oh, gee, Dinah can sing. Dixie's beautiful. She's the best photographed one. I made sure I was always with them all the time. And for me, it was to try my hardest down there. Now, down in Manutuke, and we were blessed. We were looked after so well by the people from down there, Tangiwai. And I knew how hard I had to work, because I thought, if I had to get in there, I think I was the fairest one there too. Yeah. And there was one day, Timonu, Moni Timonu, he was asked to come and take all of the boys, and we had to learn 3 hakas, Ngāti Porou hakas, in one day. And I thought, well, gee, I better pull finger out here, better really good at. Dinah was doing well over in the poi groups. He was doing well with the singing. Tommy Taurima, we were getting it to do everything. And so even into that night, I learned all those 3 hakas and really fell in love with one of them, which was Poropeiana. And but Rua Moko and Kura Tiwaka. And next day we all had to come back. There were 75 people, but there must have been about 35 boys that were there. And whilst the Ngāti Porou boys there had a head start on us, they knew the hakas, I made sure to learn every one of them and worked like a Trojan too. And even stepped up to do some leading. Fancy doing leading Ngāti Whare Hakas, but it helped. And then after that, that did help, and then the tutors, the producer, director Dickie Johnson, and people like that, they gave us a night off. Fantastic. And where did we go? To the Bridge Hotel in Hastings, somewhere out in the rural area. And we filled this pub up and had a fantastic party. And I thought, here's another chance to try and get my way there. I was a little bit of a singing party animal back in Rotorua. And the producer and the directors came down to the evening, and they liked what they saw. They really saw us in our element. And so that might have helped as well. And then we came to the selections that they were naming the team to travel the world 3.5 months. And everyone was all quite nervous standing there. Oh, will we get it? And dinner at the time was sort of sitting there relaxed and everything, and I was sort of fingers crossed and everything. And I said, hey, how are you feeling? She said, oh, I hope I don't get picked. Shucks. And my hair stood up. I said, gee. And I said, why? Oh, she was a stay-home girl. She really wanted to be at home, really being out. And I suppose the thought of 3.5 months being away from home. But I thought, gee. But anyway, I crossed all the fingers. And our name came out. Well, she was half excited, but I was celebrating. And it was great, which meant we were chosen. And I was also pleased for the likes of Dixie, Dell. Dell was brilliant also as Poi and Tere. Maybe Tere was similar to me. He was and Josh Gardner from home here. They and Tangiwai, the youngest one there at the top. And we were chosen, and we came home, and we had to prepare. We had to go down to Wellington for 3 months training. So you had to give up whatever you had here. Well, I think I was unemployed at the time, and so down we went, and who gave us home for us to live in? Don Selwyn. So Dixie, Self, and we stayed there, and we were rehearsing every day, learning notes, songs, choreography, and it was absolute a 35-member group of people who are friends for life, like Tangiwai and Aya. We then had to have after the 3-month tour, Enia Tuiata joined us for the final month. Kitty the Canary joined us over there in Expo. And then we did a three-city tour through New Zealand in Wellington, Hamilton, and then Auckland and away. Many of our own folk came up from home here to see us perform at the Founders Theatre in Hamilton, and then away we went. Thank you, Mercia. And we went to Expo 70 in Osaka. That's when we joined up with the National Band of New Zealand and other people from home. And on New Zealand Day, we all gave a massive performance in Osaka together. And then we left Osaka on a ship to go off to 3 days to get to Vladivostok in Russia. Well, that's where Kim Jong-un and Putin are meeting there. But anyway, off we went to Vladivostok, and then a train up to another place. And we were rooming. There was me and Dinner and Dixie and Inuit. We had to tie a belt around to the seat to keep him in his place. He was good. He was there. Then we flew from Khabarovsk right across to Moscow. Now, at those times, it was USSR. It was Soviet Union. It wasn't like what it is today. And we did a 5-week tour through the USSR at that time. And we went from Moscow down to Kiev, Ukraine, a beautiful city. And when I see on TV each night watching it, makes our heart cry to see what's happening there, eh, Tangiwai? Beautiful. We had performances there. And then we went to Belarus and Leningrad, and then moved on from there to Hungary at Budapest, performed there, down to Greece. That was great in Athens. And did our performance on an open air stage, and amongst all the historic ruins and everything. Then from there across to the United Kingdom and London, and performed over there. Then the tour was cut short. But while we were in London, Inuit took us. He was doing all the carvings that are in New Zealand House at the moment in the basement. And then we were meant to go through the USA and Honolulu, but unfortunately the tour was cut short. And some got off along the way. Josh stayed in London. Some of the others stopped off in Los Angeles. Pityshasha, I think, was one. And then in Honolulu, Dixie and them stayed on. And then we came home. And got another knock on the door when we were at home, and it was brother-in-law Howard again knocking on the door. Hey, what are you two going to do now? I said, oh, well, I've got to find a job. I wonder if Smith & Smith will take me back to do some painting. And he said, well, how about you two come and be the supporting act for him in Bangkok, Thailand, 6 weeks. I said, yeah. And Dinner goes, oh, no, I want to stay home. Oh, well, let me go. So we went, and beautiful, we spent beautiful 6 weeks over there with brother-in-law Sir Howard. But boy, did it teach us. All these are learning things that I'm telling you, but did it teach us something? How lonely it is. We think great life. Sir Howard was there on his own for all that time, missing his family back home. But he had us there, and well, we didn't have any children at the time. We were just newly married. But it made me fully really appreciate how hard it is. We think the field is easy, but it's not. And then we came home, and then of course, I had to go and find a job, and I did. And then when we got home, it wasn't long, and then the whānau of the family, Auntie Kato, and a whole lot from home, called around. We were living in Whitaker Road then. They wanted us to take Ngāti Rangiwewehi because George Brennan was leaving roughly at the time, and our Julia will remember all those times, and he had moved to Christchurch, and we thought, oh, heck. Dinner and I think we were younger than the rest of the group that we were going to be going back to. And we said, oh, are you sure? And they said, yeah. Many of them came to the show in Hamilton, knew we'd been on a tour. They wanted to make a change from, I suppose, the way we performed then. And so the journey of Rangiwewe for us started there. And so in we went, and they said, well, there will be some changes because, yes, we did learn a lot being with the Maori Theatre Trust, and said, we'll make some changes. Yeah, whatever you say, yeah, whatever you do. Okay, boys out of the white football shorts you wear into the pupu, that's gone. And girls, we're going to change the red to the light brown that looks like natural, and then the pupu looks even much nicer. And then, of course, you see a sign there to try and stop the smoking. We'd be singing and everything. You know, there were 40, 50 people in there smoking, having 4 people outside. We were some of them. We made a bit of a change, and everybody, in the end, actually liked it. And I know it's a practice now. We thought, gee, if it can work here, let's go with our marae committee. I was on the marae committee, like our Tangiwai says, do your stuff with your tribe. So we made a rule that no smoking in the meeting house during the tangis, during huis. We tried for years. I think about the 5th year we succeeded. And now nobody wants to smoke in the marae. It was the best thing that ever happened. And then whilst all this was still going on and we were taking the group out home, we were still doing shows in town with our whānau group. And here at the, what's now called the Ridges, where the grand gala is going to be on Saturday night, was the first ever hangi concert. And it was started by Laurie Morrison. He started that, and we were the performing group doing a Sunday night hangi and show, and a real genuine hangi that was done by Nini, Nicholas and Brian, who has started the first hangi, and we used to have a night show. And then after a year, then Tommy Todima came on and took the group. Then the Polynesian Festival, as it was called, started, and we were all starting to get very interested in these important things. The very first year, 1972 was the first concert, first competition, Matatini as it's called now, held. 72 is going to be held annually, but they realised it's too big to really hold annually. Became biennial. But in the first year, 1972, the first regional was held up here, the Rotofio. Julie and us performed in the group there, and then it rained halfway through the afternoon. We had to go down to the Sportstrome, and whilst we didn't qualify that year, we broke the stage. George Flavel and the Malkins that were there. And the changes that are happening now, 72, we performed on the anniversary weekend, end of January, and the comps were in March. So 2 months, straight into it. So you almost did the program you did. So the first year we missed out, although, I'll keep that part short, we won most of the sections, and I never forgot it. One of the sections, and in the action song, one of the judges gave us 20 out of 100 for the action song. That killed us, and we came 8th out of 11 teams. Dinner went to see Hamu, was the head judge, and said, you got to do something like that, but couldn't. Not in those days. It didn't happen. So, and I learned something from that. I said, get onto some of these boards and committees and everything and ensure there's a level playing field for everybody. Then compete. So looking at all of these, our Rōpu performed in every one of them right up to in Palmerston North, I think right up there, except in 1990 we threw our toys out of the cotton, didn't go there, because they replaced Kuruwaka as chairman of Te Matatini, and we were not happy about that, and we went out together. We supported our relation and didn't go to that. But all the rest, we qualified to go, and in Palmerston North, well, we didn't go there, 27 and 208. And since then, our team, I'm proud of our Rangiwewehi team under the tutorship of Horowaewae and Haba. They've represented us to now, and Dan and Hedia before, and Julie, I think the year before that. Sadly, our Ropu from home didn't qualify in 2013 here, missed out in our regionals. So that's a big journey taken in that there. Thank you. Now, this is where I want to acknowledge, and that's what this beautiful hui is all about, is celebrating Maori writers past, present and future. Hamuera Mitchell was a big support to us, but of course Auntie Kato played a huge part in our early beginnings, and she was a beautiful kupu person. She also performed in our first one on the stage at the park here. Henry Northcroft also did a couple of items for us, and when Irirangi Tiakiawa came over to our Ropu from Oahu, he not only did he perform brilliantly, as he always did with us, but he also composed and took a bit of controlling at rehearsals, because he was always distracting people while you're trying to do rehearsals. But we had a secret way of dealing with that. He'd be there, and you're trying to teach the group and get things done and that. And so the best thing was to sort of single somebody out. So we used to look at it and go, it is again disrupting. Tapu, stop listening to Irirangi. Everyone laughed like anything. Well, we never offended Irirangi, but Tapu would give him a hug afterwards. And of course, people who played a big part with us too was Timothy Karetu, wrote many of our songs. We appreciated that. He had his own Ropu in Kirikiriroa, performing there, and of course, Uenuku Wheho. So I acknowledge them, and this was in 1996 at Arawa Park. Monty was running, was also coordinator there for the running of the festival. Karen was the secretary for the whole event. She did a tremendous job. Kuru was our chairman at the time for Te Matatini, and Te Ata, of course, was there. One of our very proud moments for Rangiwewehi, also in 1983, when we won Matatini in Hastings. And this one here, and then as years followed, for us at Rangiwewehi, one of our major events that we're very proud we represented, not only our tribe, but Aotearoa New Zealand, was at the Edinburgh Tattoo in the year 2000. They were celebrating the 50 years. That was an exercise. We planned it 2 years before we went there to help do the fundraising and go for the 5 weeks that we needed over there. And we did that. Pleasingly, we took 48 people over with us, and Hami, Sam Mitchell, Aroha, Hami Hahunga, and Auntie Mala. But we also had 12 people, I think, from Tūhorangi, John, Patrick and Missy and many of them. It was beautiful. We took some other members from also Ngāti Whakaue and some of our other tribe. A beautiful, that is a whole nother long story, but it was a beautiful exercise. 25 shows, 23 fine weather, 1 shower, 1 when it rained. It was okay. We could take more gear off that we had on there, and the blimmin' horse. There was a little Shetland pony nearly ran us over. But it was a tremendous way of putting us on the map. On the way over to break the journey, we stopped off in Bangkok and got our friends over there to arrange a show, and we performed there. That paid for the accommodation and the meals and the 3 days there. And then on the way home, we had a holiday in Honolulu. Thank you, Mercia. This is one of the reasons that keeps me happy and alive, the whānau, and my immediate whānau. There are the wider whānaus and that, of course, but the only one missing is Atareta, dinner, and we went to Rarotonga and had 2 birthdays. Atareta had her birthday over there, on the way over, back in New Zealand. Then we crossed the date line, and she had another birthday in Cook Islands, and then my birthday up there. But it was really, really lovely. What pleases me is that they're all involved in the passion that we love, which is Kapa Haka, something that, OBE. Oh, is it OBE? Other buggers' efforts or something? No, yeah. No, that's another proud moment that our family went through about 2 months ago. Look, it's something I just wanted to touch on. Again, I want to repeat too, that's nice receiving things and that like that, but my thoughts were on, and many of our family went down, but Miss Dinner, she deserves more than probably what I was receiving, because, whilst I look at some of the wonderful, wonderful experiences, the remarkable achievements and everything, I give all the credit, I believe, to my late wife Atareta, and for me, what's neat? What if someone was to ask what keeps you going? It's my beautiful family, and I think of Kahirangi and Enia and all my mokopuna. I loved the rehearsals that were happening out at Awaho before everyone went to Tamaki for the comps. Kahirangi said to me, Dad, I got a new job for you. I said, oh yeah, what's that? You're looking after the mokopunas while she's trying to gain a place in the team. She's been out of it for a while. I said, beautiful, I love it. Because, we go out there, watch the kids, especially when they go to the river and people are swimming, and just somebody to look after them. But I loved it. And then especially when your own rōpū honours you and they go and sing an action song about you, kind of cry, and then you sit in the car and the 5 kids are singing the song all the way home. So I think that's the last slide, is it, Miss? Yeah. So whānau, I've tried to give a bit of a picture of a journey that Kapa Haka has played a big part, and everything else, and family that is important. I do want to say that we've joined up with Tangiwai. I'm so pleased that we're here tonight together because Tangiwai and George led the group to Expo 1992 in Seville, Spain. They were our leaders there. We were there again on another journey together, Tangiwai. And some wonderful things that have happened in our lives. We were invited to join Te Māori in St. Louis and went over for that, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee 2012. The South Pacific Festival, we went to Tahiti and Samoa. Here's something that I am proud of, which is what have you left for the rōpū in that? I touched on the fact that I'm so proud of Haba and Ho who are taking the group now. But it pleases me the 35 years that Dinner and I took our group out of home, that many after they've grown up and they've had their families, leading groups throughout in Te Arawa in New Zealand. And I'd like to acknowledge them. And I think of Dr. Donna, her in Anaru when they had Te Whanau, competing at Matatini in Tauranga and Rotorua. Also, I acknowledge Raya and Tania, Manaia Rōpū, that performed in two Matatinis. You know, Dan and Hiria with Hekinga. Yeah. You know, that was so wonderful. Yeah, and that beautiful motete that they did up there, giving the history of Te Matatini, 50 years of it in one action song. Well, they'll qualify again next year. They'll just only have to add one verse. And I'll acknowledge my own son, Eni and Rongopai. They took Ohine Mutu Kapa Haka for 4 years. Yeah. And then Leanne and Warwick, they went up the coast there and took their rōpū. I love seeing them doing the poise. Yeah. And then because Temuera wouldn't let Tiny do any hakas, lead any hakas at Rangiwewe, she went to Te Matarai. She did beautifully well there, our Tiny. Yeah. And so it pleases me to see many of them, and I go along to watch them perform, and I feel good. Left a little, Dinner and I have left a little something with you. And then also I used to always encourage our performers, get out into the secondary schools, and also now the primary schools are coming up. Get out there and take groups that'll teach you how to manage people and be with people. And we had Te Rōpū Manaki at Western Heights High School in 2004 when they won the Nationals, which is great. And Te Kuru o Te Koutu used to be our sister school, and we used to have 4 or 5 members from there join us. Now there's a reverse, I think. Yeah. And so now we have Te Kuru o Te Koutu. They're going on to places like Nelson. Who goes to Nelson? Nelson. Wonderful. And proudly, I'm allowed to. I've got the floor at the moment. My baby Atarete, she's leading the group in Nelson. And it's things like that that really keep me going, you know. And also, I'm still one of the leading performers in the Pakeke group for Rangiwewe. Mightn't jump as high, but the voice is still there. And we don't need all the rehearsals that the rest need the weekend before we get together, before the comps. Yeah. So, whānau, again, I just put a lot of these things down to we've been very blessed. I feel very blessed. I have a beautiful family around me. immediate and the wider, and seeing everyone. The other thing too is keeping involved. And I was listening with interest, Tangiwai, that you're saying about keeping involved. I still wait by the phone for Horowaewae to ring me up and say, hey, you want to be conductor for the group? No, stay with the Pakira group. But, you know, it's just seeing still stay connected. And the big one we've stayed on with, and we try and look for succession, but thanks to our Te Arawa Kapa Haka, working on behalf of our 22, 21 groups here in Te Arawa over the years. And we've had good people leading over much of the time. And the Ahu Day was a good example of after Tamaki of 2 weeks later, we had the big event that had more people than we had on Saturday night at Lakeside, because I'm on the Lakeside committee, we knew the numbers. 18,000 we had on Saturday night, we had 20,000 on the Sunday down home. That was brilliant. But the most pleasing thing of what we got together to do that for was to do fundraising for Te Tairāwhiti and Kahungunu, and Watu sent off a cheque in the mail, checks in the mail there, Watu. It was sent off to Horowaewae in Tairāwhiti and down to Braden, Brendan down in Kahungunu. I think something like we raised about 26,000 per area. Was that right? What? I think that's tremendous. Thank yous for the awhi that you gave for all of that, and I'm pleased we still held that. Whānau, thank you for being so patient and listening to some of the kōrero that I had to give. Looking to the future, yeah, we have to take interest now, because as we speak, there are things that are happening now with the government giving 34 million to Te Matatini. It would never have happened. I think it hasn't happened up to now. And so that's going to be interesting to see how everything develops. We're going to try our best to ensure Te Arawa carries it forward wisely for everybody. But to everyone, thank you. Again, I take the opportunity to thank you for giving me a reception. But mā te atua koutou e manaki, ki ara no tātou katoa. And I'm going to ask the whānau, can we come up here? I'm going to ask the whānau if they can come up and tuahurangi, and others from Te Arawa, Pukaki. That's one of the songs that we've been pleased that we've been able to do along here. Thank you. Oh, damn me. Wahine ki mua. Wahine ki mua. Thank you, everybody. And if there are a couple of questions, I'm happy to try and tell the truth.
Oh, tēnā. Tēnā. This is from Kere Homa. Trevor, Kapa Haka has changed so much over the years. Over 50 years of experience, do you have any advice to the kaiako of the next 50 years?
Like Tangiwai, I'm enjoying some of the groups I do see perform. At Matatini at the moment, but it's changed, and sometimes people say, "Oh, is it better now than it was then?" No, I think different time. It's like trying to compare the All Blacks who are playing today to the All Blacks playing then, but some of the changes that have been made. Good. I think it's just some of the rules at the moment. I think if they could, because I look at it now too. Do we need 42 judges in this big Bin Laden tent at the front of the stage? You know? And you know, because although I'll be honest, I have spoken to a couple of judges and they've said, no, it's good. You are focusing, you're judging on the item you're there for. I said, well, okay. Yeah, unemployed for the next 25 minutes or something, you know. But the advice I can give is have a look at our own kids. Did I ever think that primary school would be in competition? Personally, I didn't want it at the time. I said, no, just don't have kids. Let them enjoy ngaho. Then I went along to see my own mokopunas before. Shucks. And then they're picking up so fast because we didn't have videos. We had black and white paper on the wall. You had to learn that week, otherwise the following week you come back and look at the words again. But now it's on their iPhones. It's using the modern equipment to the best. No, we've tried to make things as best as possible, but I think I'll reserve judgment on if it's better then or better now. I wish they could expand it a little bit more, allow a bit more time, because honestly, entries and exits used to be just entry is just get on. Exit is, you know, but now they're brilliant. Some of the entries and the exits, and they deserve the 100 points in their own right. So, you know, yeah.
Moana, do we have any other questions online? Because if we don't, I just have one, Trevor. I just have one.
Couple.
That is the 34 million that is going to Matatini now. If you were in the position to determine how that might be used most profitably, what would you use it for?
For the first year, probably don't spend anything. Just try and consolidate, you know, and ensure you get all the right people in the right place. But I think they're working on that in Wellington, and we hope to hear. And we haven't had a chance to discuss it, but we want to see it spent wisely because we're going to be looked at. I mean, everybody's going to see how well we spend that amount. But I think at long last it'll be good because we try our best in Te Aroha to do the fundraising for the groups we go, and we create our own problems. Most groups only have 2 to go away or 3 to go away from their region. We have 6. So we're looking at trying to fundraise for the whole 6. But that's still going to be a big help to us, should be. Yeah, I'm going to watch that with interest. Lovely.
Ka pai. Thank you very much, Ehua. Thank you. I believe that...
Thank you.
Yes. Ai. Ai. Koutou. By the way, Trevor, the love has been pouring out on the screen. There have been hearts and kisses and love yous and favourite uncles all the way through.
I'm single.
Oahu, everybody. Oahu. Hoi no, harai te mea heaha, engari koinei noho te tono ki a tātou, ko te tono te wharekai tēnei, te rauaroha, e tono ana ki a tātou, ki a haere tātou ki te kaitahi, i runga i tēnā wairua, kia hihiri tātou. Hono re kōria mauna nei te whenua, whakaro pai ki nā tāngata katoa āmine. I Tangiwai Ria a koe te kupu koroto i te paipara no te kupu i te tīmatanga. E pai tō mātou atua whakatata tonu mai ki a mātou e hoki haere ana ki te wā kāinga. Tautoko hia mātou i roto i tēnei kaupapa, ko koe tonu kai mua, kai muri, kai nā taha e tia ki ana e manāna mo nā taumutunga kore, kororia ki toinua tapu āmine.